The Vikings are coming down from the south to invade Ima Turida and the rest of Atos, but why are they even doing that? And what are the deaths? Well, welcome to a lore video where I will be explaining the lore and the factions of Drœnland and deaths. Starting with Drønland, well, they are a race of humans who are Vikings. Long ago, long before any of the other kingdoms of man, Drønland rose up out of the chaos of the northern lands. This was back when Alân Khûl was a massive empire. Anŷn was part of Alân Khûl, and Alân Khûl went all the way up into these lands. But these other lands, Chahar, Gendron, Taealar, Drønland, were all wildlands where nobody really dwelt. That was until man awoke, and man started spreading rapidly across the wildlands. And one particular clan were the drones. Now, the humans were very warlike in their early beginnings. There were hundreds, if not thousands, of clans all across the wildlands, and the drones were just a small clan, but they decided to unify themselves under King Grimstaff. Over his lifetime, King Grimstaff was able to take control over all of the wildlands. In fact, he controlled from the very northern wastelands all the way to the borders of Alân Khûl. Now, Alân Khûl was also much bigger. It went up pretty far north beyond its modern-day borders. Now, fun fact, the Taeans were originally drones. Maybe I'll do a video about the Taeans, but they did come from Drønland. Now, Drønland did eventually start crumbling. That was due in part to Taealar and Chahar. The Chaharians were very warlike, and the Taeans wanted freedom from the oppressive drones. And so the Chaharians took over their southern lands with the help of the Anŷn, which is why the Chaharians and Anŷn are allies against the Taeans in the modern day events. The Taeans, they wanted their own freedom, and so they broke away from the Drønland. The mages of the Whispering Wastes also broke away, but for a darker secret. Now, over the years, Drønland shrunk and shrunk, but it was still a massive powerhead, especially farther in the north. But then came the Dark Days, and with it, the Dark Empire. The Dark Empire spread across all of Atos. Everything in Atos was under the Dark Empire. Everybody was subjugated from Alân Khûl to Drønland. And once the Dark Empire fell, Drønland just never recovered. Chahar, Taealar, Alân Khûl, and Anŷn, they all recovered and they all became successful. Taealar colonized Zeda. The Chaharians grew to their massive empire size they are now today. But Drønland just kind of didn't really do anything, and they just kind of became a group of Vikings led by one king. And so that is why they just kind of closed themselves off, fighting amongst themselves, sometimes raiding down into Ima Turida and Des. But the Taeans always protected the Ima Turidans, and the Des were very adept at protecting themselves. So they didn't really do anything. But now they are seeing the effects of the war down in the south. They're seeing an entrance on to the main stage of Atos. They are no longer just some sitting country far in the north. They have the possibility to renew their once powerful empire. And the only thing that is in their way is Ima Turida. So that's what the Drønlandi do. They're just a group of Vikings who are really good at surviving in the north and are really good at taking things over when they have the willpower to and the reason. Now, what about the Des? Well, it's a little bit different. The Des are a little bit closed off, so there's not a whole bunch of lore that the rest of Atos knows about the Des. They've had many wars. I don't particularly remember what their order was in the awakening of the Seeds of Amos, but the Des were there, and the Des weren't like the dwarves or the elves. They didn't come to the Laurels for help to learn about the ways of the world. They just kind of learned it themselves. They kind of figured everything out for themselves, and they decided that they were the superior race. And so the Des just kind of existed in their land. There wasn't really a whole lot to do with their lore. I mean, they were still, they have a large country, so they were at least powerful enough. But even during the Dark Days, they didn't really have a big part. Like, the orcs of the Dark Empire did come to Des and destroy a lot, but much of Des was under ice, and so they were protected. They didn't really care about what was going on outside of the world. They just isolated themselves. And so that's kind of carried on past the fall of the Dark Empire and the rise of the empires of the modern day. And so the Des are just, chilling. Now, if you don't know what a Des is, they are an ice people. They are humanoids made out of unmeltable ice. They cannot die, and it's really, really hard to destroy them. They live in their cities of ice, under the ice, and in the ice. And to be honest, Des is just a big wasteland. There isn't a whole lot in Des until you get under the ice. And so their thing is they're pretty wise. I mean, they are probably the wisest of all the races in Atos. They have massive libraries of lore and histories. And to be honest, they probably have the dark secrets of Atos hidden away inside their ice chambers. Now, that's about it. They're kind of just undefeatable, unkillable, but they don't multiply. They are just the Des that exist, are the Des that always will exist. And so let me know, will you join Drœnland? Will you join the Des? I hope you enjoyed that little lore tidbit. If you did, and have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear them and answer them best as I can. I'll see you all next time. Peace.